नमो ब्रह्मादिभ्यो ब्रह्म विद्या संप्रदाय कर्तृभ्यो वंश ऋषिभ्यो नमो गुरुभ्यः। शंकरं शंकराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। The Shanti mantra of this Upanishad is Om Bhadram Karneभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैः सुष्ठुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्ताक्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमि स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्ददातु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। The mantra shlokas of this Upanishad written by Shankaracharya is प्रज्ञां शुप्रदानैः स्थिरचिरनगरैः व्यापिभिर्व्याप्य लोकान् भुक्त्वा भोगान् स्तविष्टान् पुनरधिदिशनोद्भासितान् कामजन्यान् पीत्वा सर्वान् विशेषान् स्वपिति मधुरभुङ् मायया भोजयन्नो मायासङ्ख्यं तुरीयं परममृतमजं ब्रह्म यत्तन्नतोऽस्मि। यो विश्वात्मा विदिज विषयान् प्राश्य भोगान् स्तविष्टान् पश्चाश्चान्यान् स्वमिति विभवान् ज्योतिषा स्वेन सूक्ष्मान् सर्वानेतान् पुनरभिशनैः स्वात्मनि स्थापयित्वा हित्वा सर्वान् विशेषान् विगतगुणगणैः पात्वथौ न तुरीयः। The Upanishad is starting with 6 mantras in the beginning, followed by Karika, and then 7th mantra, like that. The first 6 mantras are like what we have completed is ओमित्येतदक्षरमिदं सर्वं तस्योपव्याख्यानं भूतं भवत् भविष्यतीति सर्वम् ओङ्कार एव यच्चान्यत्र कालातीतं तदप्योङ्कार एव सर्वं ह्येतद् ब्रह्म अयमात्मा ब्रह्म सोऽयमात्मा चतुष्पाद जागरितस्थानो बहिःप्रज्ञः सप्ताङ्ग एकोनविंशतिमुखः स्थूलवैश्वानरः प्रथमपादः स्वप्नस्थानो अन्तःप्रज्ञः प्रज्ञ सप्तांग एकोनविंशतिमुखः प्रविविक्तबुक् तैजसो द्वितीय पादः यत्र सुप्नो न कंचन कामं कामयते न कंचन स्वप्नं पश्यति स्वप्नं पश्यति तत् सुषुप्तं सुषुप्तस्थान एकीभूत प्रज्ञानघनम् एवं आनन्दमयः आनन्दमुक्तो तेजोमुखः प्राज्ञस्तुतीयपादः एष सर्वेश्वरः एष सर्वज्ञ एष अन्तर्यामी एष योनिः सर्वस्य प्रभवः ह्यपि अयो हि भूतानां. This is the 6th mantra which we completed last class. एष सर्वेश्वर एष सर्वज्ञ एष अपि अन्तर्यामी सर्वस्य प्रभव अप्ययो हि भूतानां. Now, if you recall what we discussed, that after having discussed what is the Jagrat waking, what is Swapna, and what is Sushupti or the Sushupta Sthana, Eki Bhutaha, that 3 states have been explained, and after that, straight away the Upanishad is mentioning Esha Sarveshwara, Esha Sarvajna, Esha Antaryami, Esha Yonihi. Sarvasya Prabhava Apyeyo Hi Bhutanam. Now, a typical doubt can arise in our mind. Having discussed the waking, dream, and deep sleep, suddenly why is the Upanishad jumping to Ishvara? Esha Sarveshwara, Esha Sarvajna, Esha Antaryami. And he is also saying, the Upanishad is also saying, Bhutanam hi prabhava apiyo hi etanam. He only is the creator and dissolution, or the creation, the Utpatti Pralaya of Bhutanam. Now, what is this relationship between the three states which has been mentioned in the three mantras before, and this sixth mantra which is talking about the Ishvara? There seems to be some disconnect between the two. So naturally, the question will arise in our mind is that why is it that the Upanishad is jumping from one side, he is talking about the waking, dream, and deep sleep, and then suddenly jumping to Ishvara. I mean, something is missing, or is the Upanishad miss out something in between? To clarify that, this is the place where we need masters to come in and step in and explain to us what is the method, because Upanishad is basically is the insight of rishis who have seen the truth, and when they mention it, sometimes they may not even correlate between the previous mantra to the next mantra, because it is not in their mind that they are teaching somebody, they are talking it from their own experience. So from an internal experience, or from a atmanubhuti, or so when it is being experienced by the rishi, and when he is mentioning that, we may obviously think that there is a disconnect between the previous three states, which is being explained as waking, dream, and deep sleep, and the Ishvara, which is the sixth month. So Gaudapada steps in for helping us by writing the Karika. And the Karika itself is slightly, tough for an ordinary mind to understand, where the Shankaracharya comes in, steps in, and then completes the whole explanation, for each of us can understand it much better. Even with Shankaracharya's explanation, unless we have the knowledge of Sanskrit and the relationship where he is referring to, so many Shruti Vakyas and Smriti Vakyas in the other Upanishads and etc. So unless a person who has been trained in traditional knowledge of Prasthanatraya and has knowledge where these references are being made by Shankaracharya, the complete picture of the Upanishad and the Karikas will not be clear to our mind. I will try my level best. I know that I am nowhere near to complete the gap between the Shankaracharya and what is needed by the earnest seekers who want to know the reality. But to best of my knowledge and capability, I will try and explain them. Reading from what the Karika Gaudapada has written and the Bhashya of Shankaracharya has written, and what my Guru has taught me. So based on the three, I will explain these connection between the three states and the sixth mantra which is there mentioned. To understand that, let us first see what Gaudapada is telling about through in the Karika, so that we get a rough idea. We will build it up step by step. So the first Karika goes this way. Bahiprajnaha vibur vishwa hi andaprajnastu taijasa. Ganaprajnastada prajna eka eva strita. Now, Bahiprajna vibhuhu vishwa. The Bahiprajna is the one which is cognizing or experiencing the outer world, means the gross world, who in the mantra has mentioned as Vishwa. And he is a Vibhu, because Vibhu means Vyapakat, because Vyapaka Sheelanam. Yes, that is that he has knowledge of the total field of experience. Therefore, he is a Vibhu. That is, the name given to him is Vishwa, and he means indeed Andhaprajnastu Taijasa. Here, Andhaprajna is referred to the knowledge or the experience of what is in the imagination, memory, or in the dream, or the subtle world of our experiences. Please understand, even this Upanishad talks about gross and subtle. It is not differentiating between our physical body going to waking state, physical, dream state, and the deep sleep state. But what it is referring to is from the experiential point of view of the individual. Whether the body is awake or sleeping, this is not a criteria when we understand the meaning. So first of all, we have to keep that in our mind, that when the Upanishad is talking about, it is the experience of the gross, subtle, and the absence of both gross and subtle are the three states. It can happen in our bodily waking awake situation, or body when it is sleeping, or body when it is in the deep sleep. How does these differences take place is to be understood properly. When the gross elements are experienced using our sense organs, that information, that knowledge which is acquired by the sense organs is accepted by the mind and stored as a memory. Now, all the items which have been conceived by the sense organs outside the world may not enter the realm of the memory. There may be blanks in between. So we have the three situations. One is the cognition of the gross, one is the memory of the gross, part memory of the gross, and absence of, even though we experienced it, it is not remaining in the memory. This, if we really look into our own day-to-day activity or momentary activities, pratibodha viditam. This is where it is saying, every moment when we are understanding what is happening, we will know that we have lived so many years in our life, we don't remember all of them. That means there is a blank. There has been states of absolute blank of the life we lived from childhood till now. Some of them are remembered in memory, some of them are not. So which shows very clearly that even if we are engaged in our day-to-day life with the gross world outside, with our sense organs as the tools of cognition for us to interchange, the subtle world has accepted only part of it, and there is a gap between what has been accepted and what is not accepted. So these three are the one which is saying that Bahiprajna means with the gross world which is cognized by the world outside through the sensory organs. Andhaprajna means that which has been taken inside after cognizing by the world sensory organs outside as memory with us. And Ghana Prajna. Ghana means thick, or Prajnana Ghana. It is there in the knowledge, but at the same time, it is not accessible by the subtle mind or the gross mind, because when sense organs are submitting the inputs from the world outside, it is being recorded in the mind. But what mind records are in two different levels. One is called in the subtle level, which is available as memory and all. Some of them goes deep down in the subconscious mind as what you call tendencies or vasanas, or even, you know, in the form of ignorance. The ignorance is not the absence of knowledge which we normally talk about, but is the ignorance or the incapacity to recall it when required. This is why when we see a something, we say, "Yeah, I remember. I think I have seen it somewhere, but I don't know exactly what is it, or what is the name, or what is his name, or what." These type of non-capability to recall them, even though, and at a very, very superficial level, we have a vague idea of it, but there is no concrete thing. But in the case of memory, it is not like that. If you see an elephant and knew it is an elephant from the cognition, then next time when you see an elephant or a cow or whichever may be the object, you are able to say that, yeah, this is the similar type of an animal which I've seen earlier, or similar object which I've seen earlier. So you are able to correlate between the memory and the current experience. Sometimes the current experience need not be in the front at all. You may, in a daydreaming, or even you may remember of a thing. Suppose when I say, but right now when I said elephant, those who have seen elephant knew what I am referring to. The elephant is not nowhere there, but the mere word has brought in that memory knowledge from the sun. So that capability of the mind, or the is called the andapratnya, or the subtle mind, which is called the taijasa. This is predominantly there in the case of a dreaming state of our experience, where most of the memories of the waking are brought in by the mind for experiencing in a subtle way without physical objects available there. But there also, there are gross aspects of that memory which lasts with us. When we wake up, we are able to recollect the memory of the dream, because the grossness of the subtle, which is contradictory statements, but I have no other way to explain that impact which that subtle has left in the experience is as good as experiencing a gross thing. That's why when we are waking up, we are able to recollect and say that, yeah, I dreamt about going to such and such a place, or I dreamt having, driven a car. The person doesn't know how to drive a car, but he has traveled in the car. But he now thinks that he is driving the car. So those type of things, or some people have a fearful dream that may last even on the physical level, with the shivering or sweating, all when we wake up from a horrible dream in that thing. So all those things have got grossness, not in the physical sense of the grossness of the waking world, but grossness of the subtle itself, which remains as an impact when the person gets out of the dream, is able to recollect it. But many of the things were there also, if you'll see that, if you look at it, 80, 70, 80, 90% of the dream we may not remember. Some aspects which we'll be remembering, which I now mentioned as the gross of the dream. But there are the things which have been remembered, which is not even known to us, what is being there brought in our dream, from where it is coming. So these are being brought by some entity which knows these things. Otherwise, from nowhere, and a thing which is not existing cannot happen anytime, whether it's a dream or waking. So it has been brought by that pratnya. So the same three combination of gross, subtle, and the absence is there in the dream also. But when it comes to pratnyana ghana pratnya, of the state of deep sleep, which is present in the waking, which is present in the dream, which is predominant in the deep sleep, is the one which is one which has no experiential knowledge at all, neither memory nor recollection. It is a as if nothing is there. Na kinchida vedesh. I knew nothing. That thick existence, knowledge without the object is called the prajnanakana. Now, what the Karika says, eka eva stridad sita. Now, this is the most important aspect of this Karika. Eka eva, there is only one which alone has appeared or stood as the three states of experience. In the waking also, it stood as three. In the dream also, it has stood as three. In the deep sleep, as a khana, as the one which has got absence of all those things. But the one who says that I knew I was awake, I knew I dreamt, I knew nothing, but I was had a good sleep. All these things are by an entity which says that I knew I dreamt, I knew I had slept, I am now awake, to tell that. So there is a common entity which is witnessing, or rather being present in the three experiential conditions. Now, I don't want to use the word three states of experiences. So there is why three conditional experiences which I am referring to. Because it happens in waking three, in the dream also there are three, and the deep sleep is where neither of the waking and the dream is not happening. So when Gaudapada uses this aspect of the, of the three state, the three experiences, what the Atma is the one who say that there is that Atma which is independent of all the three states. But the Atma here means not the Atman, Brahman, which is the same word which is in the thing. Here the Atma starts for the self, the individual self. Even when the moments of the three conditions are observing, the observer, the self as an observer, remains untouched by the events of the waking and the dream and the deep sleep, or the subtle gross and the non-cognition. If the self had been, the observing self had been affected by the events of the waking gross or waking in a subtle, the same cannot be without a experience in the deep sleep. In the deep sleep, he is devoid of all the grossness and the subtleness. Very well shows that even at the time of experiencing the grossness of the cognition, or the memory and the subtleness of the dream and the memory of in the condition of subtleness, he was present but untouched by the events. That is why he says that I am the one who dreamt, or I had a good sleep, and I am saying this now in my waking, that I am the one, I know now that I am awake. And only when I am awake, I am able to say that I am the one who dreamt and I had a good sleep. Which very clearly shows that even when the three things were happening independently at different moments of time, whether you call it as a waking or a dream, and in the deep sleep, this self has remained unaffected, untouched, untainted by the events of the experiential interaction. The example which Shankara uses, or the Shruti uses in the Upanishad, is that like the bird flying through a cloud, he is unaffected by the cloud. He can fly through the cloud. The cloud is there in the air space, When there is no cloud also, his flight is not affected. The sense that the cloud has not stopped him. Or if the another example which is used in is about the fish in the water. A fish moving from one bank to another bank, the events and the qualities of the right side bank and left side bank are different. And the visions or the experiences of the right or left may be different. But the fish, in spite of when he is going from one to another, he is independent of either of the banks which are got different experiences which it had been giving it. He was observing the events of the each of the bank. He himself was untainted or untouched by the events of the bank, the right bank or left bank. Same way, this self which had seen the grossness of the waking world or in the waking world or the memories of the waking world, it can be a bad memory or it can be a good memory, but it is a subtle world. The events can be a gross event, can be either tormenting or it can be pleasant. Doesn't matter. He is untainted whether it was tormenting or good, pleasant, either as a gross element, gross in cognition, or as a memory of the events of the waking. Therefore, what we have to understand that the sixth mantra where he is mentioned, the Upanishad mentioned as Sarveshwara, Yesha Sarveshwara, Yesha Sarvajnaha, Yesha Andaryami. Now, all these things, is it referring to the Ishvara, which is the creator of all, or is he referring to the self which is untainted by? Because quality wise, both have been referred to as, it is untainted by by what the events, what is happening in the case of Ishvara, the definition also. To explain that, the Karika takes up a very detailed wording in the second Karika. Dakshinakshi mukhe vishwa manasastu taijasa akashe cha hridi pratnya strida dehe vivastitaha. Now, the Vishwa, by operating through the right eye, is a Vedic way of representing the entire sensory organs of cognition. That is being used by, as a Upanishad uses, that is that thing, because even in the Brihadaranya Upanishad, it is says, Indo havai nama esha, yo ayam dakshina aksha purushaha. So Gaudapada is using the same word which the Brihadaranya Upanishad is used for explaining the association through the sense organs of the Pratma or the Vishwa, who is in the waking world. So what happens in that is through the waking eyes, the Vishwa, and then recollecting them as memory is Taijasa, the gross is called by Vishwa, and then when both are not being experienced, he is called a Pratnya. So this one in the Dakshinakshi Mukhe, see, and Indaha vai nama esha ayom Dakshinakshi anda purusha eva evam abhi indam sanda indra ityachakshate parokshenaiva parakshi priya ha eva isha pratyakshi dvisha. This is what exactly the Brihadaranya Upanishad mantra says. What it says is that even he is the Indra, he is the controller of the sense organ. Therefore, Indriyam, the word, the sensory organs comes from the word Indra. Indra is the presiding deity or the controller for all the sense organs put together, and is supposed to be residing in the right eye for the purpose of locating that devata to one place. Therefore, there are a lot of mantras and the Upanishads in the Vedas. You will find that the right has got predominance in some of the Vedic karmas. So we are not getting into that aspect here. Why we are saying that why the Dakshinakshi is used is it is accepted in the Vedas that this gross controller of gross experience seated in the right eye is the predominant controller of all the sense organs. And therefore, he is, even though presiding in the right eye or the sense, all the control sense organs, the events of the sense organs do not taint him or touch him. Sir, then in the Bhashya, Shankaracharya Bhashya, he is bringing up a objection as a person objecting to that. How can the microcosm and the macrocosm, or the cosmic controller, which is controlling the entire Vishwam or Virat, be the same as the Vishwa which you are saying sitting in the right eye? This cannot be admitted, because the person the controller of the gross of the whole cosmos cannot be the same person who is residing in the individual eye, on the individuality on the right eye side. So the answer given by Shankara is that no, there is no problem for that, because the Upanishad itself in the Chetocedra Upanishad says that Ekaha Deva Sarva Bhuteshu Gudaha. It is only one which is residing as in the many. We have seen this in the Kathopanishad also. Antaha Bahivi. It is inside and it's outside. And Angushta Matra Purusha as residing in one individual. But at the same time, it is the one which is there in as a Vibhu, Sarvagata, and presiding over all the things. Also, the Bhagavad Gita says, Kshetrajnam Chabimam Vidhi Sarva Kshetreshu Bharata, in the 13th chapter, second sloka. Krishna says that, please know me as the indweller of all creations. In every creation, every atom of the creation, I am the indweller. I am residing in every of the creations. Avibhaktam cha bhudeshu vibhaktam iva cha sthitam. Even though avibhaktam, that entity or the Brahman or the Sarva, this thing is indivisible. Vibhaktam iva, as if I have been divided and put it into different jars. Now the space is indivisible. But when we assemble about 100 jars, we have got, as if the space has been divided and made into 100 spaces. One can fill with water, one can be grain, one can be gold, or any of the oil, anything can be filled. So the space, even though not indivisible, because of the form of the upadhi or the instrument, the jars, we feel that the space can be divided into many. Same way, avibhaktam cha bhuteshu avibhaktam iva cha sthitam. So that is also in the 13th chapter, 16th sloka of Bhagavad Gita. Both these things are, both the Shruti, Chandogya Upanishad, as well as Bhagavad Gita says that this is possible, that the controller of the cosmos can also be present in the individual. In the individual, he may be called as a Hiranyagarbha, Vishwa, or Taijasa, Prajna, and Vishwa, or in the cosmic level, he is called Virat, Hiranyagarbha, and Prajna in this thing. So what happens is that then if the same controller is the one which is being there used, this is why this Karika is the important Karika which links the three states of our experiences: gross, subtle, and and the non-cognition of the deep sleep, and the witness of the Turiya. He is bringing the concept of Turiya by bringing the witness which is experiencing all the three. So before bringing that word turiya and that the witness which is present in all the three, untouched by that, which will come in the seventh and eighth Karika. Before that, he wants to make us understand that how it is present even in the individuals. Taijasa, Hiranyagarbha, and Virat, these are all the gross and Vishwa, Pratnya. These terms of the gross and the cosmos are used, even can be used interchangeably because they are not separate in their essence. Even though with the relation with the body, we may call it as Vishwa, Taijasa and Pratnya, or Virat, Hiranyagarbha and Ishvara in the cosmos. So these are the three ways in which it is being brought about. So here now the question can come, how then can this be, if you say that this is the same, the person who is in the deep sleep, his breathing is working. If he has become one with the cosmos or cosmic entity, his dependency on the prana or the breathing is seen by all of us for a person who is sleeping. How do you explain that is a question which is being asked. The Upanishad or the Shankara Bhashya says that there is no difference. The prana which is seen as functioning in the body of the individual who is deep in the deep sleep, that is for the one who is observing the one who is sleeping, not for the person who is sleeping himself. The one who is in the deep sleep, he is not even aware that his prana is working. That entity should be separate to know whether the prana is working in me or the breathing is working in me at the deep sleep level, to know that it is an independent thing. But that independence is dissolved. He has become one. The Pratnya and Brahman is connected, or the Ishvara is connected. This is how the sixth mantra is getting connected with the three states of experience. It is not an issue. He is what in Shankaracharya Bhashya says that is the same thing. What is being called as a prana, the prana hi andar sarvam samvrinte, Chandogya Upanishad Shruti says that it is the prana which is in the form of Brahman, which is otherwise called the Brahman. The same word prana is used as for mind, for the vital air, as well as for Brahman in Upanishad interchangingly. So we should understand that why this interchange usage is relevant or valid is because the breathing which we see physically is only a relative instrument limited activity. But the same prana is the one which is prano hi mana prana bandhanam hi saumya mana is another Upanishad mantra in the Chandogya Upanishad says that attachment toward the breathing is the reason why we feel the mind is in flux, because of the flux of the vital airs. Actually speaking, the flux of the mind and the flux of the air, physical air, which is called the prana, apana, upana, samana, vyana, udana, that have independent. But when we refer to prana as Brahman, that Brahman and the prana are not neither the mind nor the vital airs. There the reference of prana is referring to Brahman in it, untouched, unconditioned, unrelated to any upadhi or an instrument. So there the prana word before the creation is called Avyakrata, and when creation takes place, it takes the form of mind and the vital airs, five vital airs. In the Avyakrita Rupa, The prana is nothing but the potency to become many. That potency to become many is called at the time as prana and Brahma. And where is it different from the total, the Brahman, from where the creation supposed to be appearing to be there? No, it is not different. That is why in the Shankara Bhashya he says that this difference is due to the upadhi limittam. We feel that the limitation is coming due to the association of the bodies. So he goes to the explanation of that into the third Karika, say, Vishyo hi stulabung nityam. The word nityam is important. Taijasa pravibhukta book. Ananda book tada pratnya trida bhogam nibodataha. The Vishwa is indeed the one which is in control, or is the witness and controller for the gross experiences. I'm not taking waking, dream and deep sleep here. I'm dividing it into gross, subtle and the absence of both. And the Pravivikta book, or the subtle experience, is by the Taijasa. Ananda book, or the absence of both gross and subtle, and when the Ghana, Pratyana Ghana, is the Ananda book, or the bliss of the deep sleep. All these things in the person, Pratnya, the witness or the consciousness in the one which is knowing, the consciousness or awareness which knows these things, Nityam is the one Nityam. It is the one which is not getting changing. The one which we had, if you look at it, the gross experiences of a childhood which we had has changed the gross of the age what we are now. The memories and the subtle world of the childhood has changed for now. And that have the absence, because the relative gross and subtle were different in the child, and the relative gross and subtle are different now. But the absence of both is Ananda only, the content which has remained unchanging. Therefore, it is Nitya. And you should be understood as that these threefold aspects of gross, subtle and the absence of the two is being observed by one who is Antaryami, which is the thing in the sixth mantra which we mentioned, Yesha Sarveshwara, Yesha Sarvajnaha. Sarvajna is when it is in the cosmic level, he is the one who knows everything because he has become everything. In the individual level, it is that prajna which is there in the gross, which is there in the subtle, which is there in the deep sleep, or the gross and subtle. He is the one who is knowing all those things. What is the gross? Who else is knowing what is gross experience? Who is the one who is knowing what is the subtle experience? Who is the one who is knowing that there is absence of both gross and subtle in the deep sleep? So there is only one, Eka Trita Triptim Nibodata. So he is the one who is the one Vitnya in the form of the three, the one. Same thing if you go to the cosmic entity side, he becomes Sarvatya because he is the one in as Kshetratyam Chavimam Vidhi Sarva Kshetreshu Varada. So there what happens in having entered, or through the utilization of the individuality of the creation, having become that through the individuality of the creation, he still becomes the Sarvatya. And he is a controller of the creation, Utpatti Pralaya, Sarva Bhutanam, Prabhavapyayoho. Prabhava means creation, Apyayo means Pralaya or dissolution. Sarva Bhutanam, in the sixth mantra we say. He is the one who creates the individualities, or the one which is in the independent multitude. He is the one who dissolves them. Now, both being from the cosmic level of as Ishvara, and prajna as a individual in the subtle body of the individual creations, there is absolutely no difference between that, because in that subtleness, the prajna in the deep sleep, when he, or in the absence of gross and subtle, when he is in the absence, there lies the potency, avyakrita rupa, or the unmanifest form of what is going to come as gross or subtle when he leaves that state of non-cognition of the gross and subtle. Just as pralaya is the non-creation of objects of the multitude of the cosmos. When he creates the whole world creation, he is a creator of the whole world. Same Ishvara is a controller for the whole grossness of the Vishwa in the gross body. Same Ishvara becoming Pratnya in the individual creations. He is the one who controls the gross and the subtle, and the one which is not recognizing the two. So from both the words, absolute parallel explanation is valid. Therefore, both the gross, subtle, and the non-cognition of gross and subtle in the individual level, and Utpatti Pralaya, or the creation and dissolution, and the absence of anything in the Ishvara level, that is also the same. So from all these things, identical, he has now resolved both the issues of the mantras which is there for Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti, and the sixth mantra which is Yesha Sarvesha Sarvajna Sarvavit Sarvantaryami, Utpatti Prabhava Sarvabhutanam, that is now has been brought into conclusion. Then he says in the fifth mantra, what? Trishu dhamasu yadbojyam bhoktab yascha prakirtitaha Vedat Ubayam Yastu Sa Bunjano Nalipyate. Trishu Dhamasu Yad Bhojyam Bhokta Yascha Prakirtitaha. This is in another, the Shvetashvara Upanishad, it is quoted in a different way. Trishu Dhamasu Yad Bhogyam Bhokta Bhogascha Yad Bhavet Tebhyo Vilakshana Sachi Chinmatroham Sadashivam is the mantra of the Shvetashvara Upanishad. He is using the same theme mentioning here in his own words. Gaudapada is mentioning that. It is the same one who is experiencing as the object, the subject, and the relation between the two. Bhojyam Bhokta Yacha Prakirtitaha. Now, these three, in any experience, we have the subject, the object, and the relationship between them. These three are, from which point of view? When you consider that they are independent and they have independent existence. Where did their independent existence go when neither the gross nor the subtle were present? In the absence of gross and subtle in the deep sleep, or in the Sushupti Samaya, Prajnana Gana Samaya, what happened to these things? You cannot divide that in that state, but when it comes to gross and subtle, you have the subject, object, and the experiencing the. But the one who has been seeing as the one, Vilakshana Sakshi, the one which is seeing them as the one knowing the gross objects, I am using the instruments of the sensory organs, the Dakshinakshi Purusha, the one which is using the sense organs of the gross, remembering them and recalling them in the subtle world of either in the waking or in the dream state, the subtle world is experienced. There also the prajna, the one witness that the prajna, not the prajna. Prajna means the witnessing consciousness. The one which is there in the gross, in the subtle, and the absence of the gross and subtle in the sushupti, the prajna, the witnessing consciousness, Bunjano nalipyade. He is neither the enjoyer nor is he getting tainted by the enjoyment or the association of the activity. This aspect of his is exactly like that of the Ishvara in the cosmic level. There the Ishvara or the creator of the gross and subtle world and the instruments of the macrocosm, which is being experienced by the thing, even though when it is all those things are happening in the gross cosmos, black hole or even the planets or asteroid hitting or even in the earth, any earthquake taking place or any avalanche taking place, rain happening, fire happening, these are all things which are happening observed by the consciousness, the cosmic consciousness. These events do not touch him, just as the witness which had seen the events in the childhood was untainted even today and remaining in each one of us as the witnessing consciousness. How many birth and death would have been seen in the waking, in the gross experience? How many of them would have become the memory in our own mind as a subtle world? And the absence of them when we go to sleep or when we don't have this thing. These events from childhood till now has not even tainted or touched us. Na bunjano na lipyate. Neither we have been consumed by that, nor are we tainted by that. This is how the fifth mantra is ended by Sangya. Therefore, absolute relationship between the cosmic entity and that cosmic entity which is residing. Sarva Bhuteshu Avastitaha. He is the one which is residing as the Prajna, the witnessing consciousness in each one of us. This is what we have to now understand to go further in our understanding of the Upanishad, where the Upanishad is taking us to see. It is taking us saying that can you see yourself as the one which was untainted by the events of your life from childhood till now? The gross, the subtle, all those things. You, as the one who has been waking, dream, and deep sleep, how many days you would have gone through that experience of the threesome? Till date, have any one of those experiences tainted you, touched you, or made any damage in your fullness or that completeness which you feel even every day morning when we wake up? There is that fullness in our experience. This is the reason why even in the waking, when we do not remember certain things, only partial memories are maintained. It is that where that rejuvenation is taking place. Otherwise, if everything had been absorbed by the grossness and the subtleness, we would have become mad. The mind will not be able to control it or not to balance it. This balancing act is the act which is provided by the witness, so that he knows that these are all just appearances in the consciousness and is not really touching us. Therefore, na bujjano na lipyate. I'll stop here. We'll continue the Karikas in the next class in the Fridays, same time. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.